But then it has something like use dissonance, and that has to do with more with your persuasive speeches. Now, how you can make your introductions interesting? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, and key points and internal summaries on the next page. Okay, I got 5 minutes left. Okay. Now, 3 ways to cause the audience to remember information. 3 ways. You want to find some way for them to register it. 3 R's. Register. That's like inputting the information. Then we have down there where they retain the information. If you do a good job, Mr. Cummins, of getting them to register it, then you also hope to get them to retain it. And then you have a way to recall it. See, I'm very bad with names. And I never forget this opportunity. I was introducing my son to this lady, and I could not remember what her name was. I worked in her office for several weeks. And so I said, well, I want to introduce you to Mrs. And she goes, Hardy. Yes, that's what's her name, Hardy. And my son goes, like the Hardy Boys. So you find certain things, certain mental fasteners to help you with that. And then some way you can access that. How many of you have saved stuff and then forgot where you saved it and you couldn't retrieve it? That's right. I'm right with you, Miss Cantrell. I still got stuff out there on cyberspace that I can't locate. Maybe they might connect with some of yours. Then you relate learning to familiar ideas. You think about the audience. You think about commonalities. And then you have ideas where you use repetition and redundancy. Anybody care to talk about the difference between the two other than what's listed there? Okay, I'll give you a quick example. Separate instance, Miss Mayfield and Miss Gutierrez, you two are neither. Okay? Hypothetically. Okay, and for her birthday, you give her a dozen roses. Oh, she's feeling good. She is a queen bee. And you say, oh, this is great. Okay, then your anniversary comes. You've been going together for maybe 2 or 3 months. And so what did he decide to do, guys? Because you felt so good about that. What's he going to do? Give her another dozen roses. Wrong plan, right, girls? Yeah. I mean, at least let them be yellow as opposed to red. Or maybe chocolate. So, it's basically doing the same thing a different way. How many of you like cheesecake? I love cheesecake. But do you want it morning, noon, and night? No. I don't think so. So we talk about redundancy. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to go on and tell you a little story about Romeo and Juliet. Now, Romeo and Juliet has been done so many different ways, more than you can think about. Romeo must die, West Side Story. But what is Romeo and Juliet about?
Love.
No, it's about 2 horny teenagers who want to hook up, whose parents can't stand each other. That's it. Now don't go to any literature class and tell them this is the story of Romeo and Juliet and ask you where you heard it from. You just Dr. Wortham and they say, oh, that crazy guy? No. But the idea is the same thing done a different way. You've seen it all the time. You've seen it even on your street probably. Oh, I can't stand your parents. I can't stand yours either. Okay, let's hook up. Okay? Now, and one of the things that will happen, that breaks tension. Incorporate humor. It's a way of hooking them. Y'all may not remember anything else about this particular presentation. You may not remember anything else about this particular presentation except Romeo and Juliet. Okay? Now, internal summaries, you have that. That's why you review periodically throughout the speech. You have your key points. You have your 3 key points. And somewhere within the speech, you will remind people, I talked about point 1, now I'm going to talk about point 2. I talked about point 1 and 2, now I'm going to talk about point 3. That's what an internal summary does. Now, also remember the 5 rules here. And the one that I want to draw your attention most to has to do, use your own words. One of the biggest failings I see with some of my students is that you don't realize your own potential. You don't realize what you're capable of doing. So when you get ready to do your presentations, hey, make it original. Use your words, your specific words. Now we have conclusions. Okay? Conclusions. That's what a conclusion will basically do. Accomplish 3 things. Signal the end of the speech, summarize the key ideas, and then reinforce the central idea with the clinic. Now, the very last page we have down here is that objectives for conclusions. We've talked about introductions, now we're talking about conclusions. And of course, in the middle you have your body. Summarize and re-clarify, you can see that. And then at the end what you want to do is something like resume. That's where you review your key points. That's where you make a summary. And that's where you end your speech. So as you're thinking about your 5 to 7 minute speech, when you think about your 5 to 7 minute speech, you start off in vague. Remember, you get into somebody's space, you tame them, you go, you roost, okay? You go around and you get a really good introduction. You segue from your introduction into the body of the speech where you talk about your 3 key points. The thing that will help you with your 3 key points and keep you on track is that you will use internal summaries, where you kind of review as you go along. And then at the end, you use resume. These are my 3 key points that I talked about. You give us a brief summary of what's important, and then you end your speech. If you follow that particular formula, it's very, very simple, very simplistic. Your speech, you won't lose people, you will feel more comfortable as a presenter because there's no question of what you intended to do and how you did it. Bottom line. Choose a topic you know something about. Okay. Develop your 3 key points. Use internal summary, and then use resume. That's what we just talked about. And then the last thing I have down here is something that a professor friend of mine, that when I was in college, I graduated my first time in 73 and another time in 76. That was the last century, not the 1800s. Okay. Whatever you are able to bring to your students pales significantly when contrasted with what your students bring to you. And I think one of the reasons that Ms. Langford likes this class, and one of the reasons I like to come to classes like this and my other classes, is because I learn so much from my students. So if you don't take anything else away from me today, take away the idea that you have no idea what you bring to the table. And we're excited about that. And hopefully today, you will survive. Remember the first one? You will survive. Questions? Any questions? Okay. My phone number is listed. I'm not sure if this is on the sheet that you have, but I'm in room 322F, ACA 1, and my phone number is this. So as you're working through and you have any questions, come by and see me. Okay, and I'm Dr. Wortham. All right? That's it. That's all I have. Okay. Anything else to country? That's great. I'll collect these. And the handouts are yours to keep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.